All right, so get this right. We are diving into this book. It's from 1895. It's called The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind.
Okay.
It's by Gustave Le Bon. And it really just digs into like how crowds think and feel, like how they can be influenced. Pretty
Wow.
crazy, right? Like this is a book from over a century ago. But when you think about our modern world, right? Like viral trends, these massive online communities, it's like more relevant now than ever.
Yeah, it really is. It's amazing, really, how some of these insights they just transcend time.
Yeah.
Le Bon was writing during a period of like intense social and political change,
Right.
yet his observations about crowd psychology, it continues to resonate even in our like hyper-connected age.
It really does. So what's the mission for our deep dive today?
Right.
I think we're going to extract some of Le Bon's key insights, about what makes crowds tick, why they have this power, and how that power can be used or abused.
Yes.
Precisely.
And I think we should also explore how these dynamics might be amplified or altered in the context of modern technology and social structures, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump right in. So Le Bon distinguishes between a regular gathering of people
Okay.
and a psychological crowd.
Right.
And he argues that in a psychological crowd, a collective mind emerges.
Hmm.
So what does he mean by that?
Well, think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine like a school of fish
Okay.
all moving in perfect synchronization,
Okay.
right? Each fish is an individual,
Yeah.
but their movements are sort of dictated by the collective, creating a new entity with its own unique behaviors.
Wow.
And Le Bon believed that something similar happens in human crowds.
So almost like our individuality gets submerged in the crowd's identity.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of unsettling.
It can be, especially when you consider Le Bon's claim that in crowds it is stupidity and not mother wit that is accumulated. He believed that while individuals may be intelligent and rational, like on their own,
Yeah.
those higher cognitive functions, they sort of fade when they become part of a crowd.
Oh, okay. So does that mean that like we're more susceptible to manipulation when we're in a crowd?
It's not necessarily about manipulation, but
Right.
rather about this shift in our mental state, right?
Yeah.
Le Bon argued that crowds are that they're highly susceptible to contagion
Mm.
and suggestion, much like someone under hypnosis, right?
Okay.
So like one powerful suggestion, like a captivating image or even a rumor,
Or
can
Huh.
rapidly spread through the crowd,
right.
influencing their actions and beliefs.
And he uses some pretty wild examples to illustrate this, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I remember reading about the incident where a group of people mistakenly identified drowned girls,
Mm.
all because of a single unfounded suggestion.
Exactly. And this isn't just about like random mishaps, right?
Yeah.
Le Bon argued that the susceptibility to suggestion
Right.
makes crowds powerful instruments for both good and evil.
Right.
They can be driven to acts of like extraordinary heroism or horrifying violence, depending on the nature of the influence they're exposed to.
So like crowds are like a powerful force that can be like directed towards either like positive or negative ends.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's a lot of responsibility for those who hold influence.
Precisely. And this brings us to another fascinating aspect of Le Bon's work,
Okay.
his emphasis on the influence of race and tradition.
Okay. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions,
Yeah.
he's not talking about race in a strictly biological sense, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Le Bon's referring to, like shared cultural and historical influences that shape a group's identity and predispose them to certain behaviors.
Mhm.
He saw tradition as a powerful force, resistant to sudden change and deeply ingrained in the collective psyche. Right.
Okay.
He even pointed to the resurgence of traditional religious practices in France after the Revolution
Wow.
as evidence of this enduring influence.
That's a great point. It's like those deeply rooted cultural influences are almost like a counterweight to like rapid social or political shifts.
Exactly. And this connects to another one of Le Bon's thought-provoking arguments.
Okay.
It's his skepticism about the power of institutions
Right.
to fundamentally change the nature of crowds.
So he basically suggested that institutions are often shaped by the the needs and desires of the crowd rather than the other way around?
He did. He did. He argued that trying to trying to impose institutions that don't align with the crowd's character,
Right.
like it's like forcing them to wear like a borrowed garment.
Yeah.
It might create a temporary facade, but it won't change their underlying nature.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder about the true effectiveness of like top-down approaches to social change.
Yeah.
You know.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It raises important questions about how we can create lasting and meaningful change,
Right.
not
Heck yeah.
just not just superficial alterations.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of creating change, I found Le Bon's critique of education systems to be particularly
Mm.
intriguing.
Oh yeah.
He seemed to believe that education could actually contribute to social unrest.
Wow.
So how so?
Well, he was writing during a period when access to education was expanding rapidly,
Right.
and he observed that certain forms of education could lead to social discontent by creating unrealistic expectations and a disconnect from practical skills.
So it's like he was saying that if you teach everyone to be philosophers who will bake the bread.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he argued that education systems should align with the actual needs of society and
Right.
prepare individuals for fulfilling roles
Right.
within that society.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you risk creating a class of educated but disillusioned individuals who feel alienated from their own communities.
It's a point that that resonates even today, especially when we consider like the anxieties around automation and income inequality and the changing nature of work.
Absolutely. It underscores the importance of, critically examining our education systems and ensuring that they equip individuals with the skills and the mindsets necessary to navigate the complexities of our modern world.
Yeah. Le Bon also had some interesting things to say about the power of images, language,
Sure.
and slogans to influence crowds.
Mhm.
It's like he was anticipating the age of, advertising and propaganda, even though
Yeah.
he was writing long before they became so pervasive.
Right.
You know?
He was fascinated by how these elements could bypass reason and logic, appealing directly to the emotions and instincts of the crowd.
Right.
He believed that that a powerful image, right,
Yeah.
or a catchy slogan, could be far more persuasive than a complex argument, especially when it comes to swaying public opinion.
Right. And we see that play out all the time today, don't we?
All the time.
Like, think about the influence of, like, memes,
Oh yeah.
viral videos,
Yeah.
and sound bites in shaping political discourse
Yes.
and social movements.
It's a testament to the enduring relevance of Le Bon's insights.
Yeah.
He recognized that crowds are not swayed by logic alone,
Right.
but by powerful symbols,
Yeah.
narratives,
Yeah.
and emotional appeals.
So understanding how these elements work
Right.
is crucial for anyone who wants to understand, like, how crowds are influenced and mobilized.
Absolutely, and this leads us to another fascinating concept that Le Bon explored:
Okay.
the role of prestige in leadership.
Yeah.
He distinguished between acquired prestige, which
Yeah.
is based on external factors like titles or wealth,
Right.
and personal prestige,
Okay.
an inherent magnetism that certain individuals possess.
It's like that it factor that draws people in
Yeah.
and makes them want to follow.
Exactly. He believed that true leaders, those with genuine personal prestige, have a unique ability to inspire and mobilize crowds
Right.
towards a common goal.
Yeah.
His account of Napoleon's innate prestige, captivating even seasoned generals, when he was still relatively unknown,
Yeah.
illustrates this concept perfectly.
It's fascinating to, like, consider who in our world today might possess that kind of, like, authentic personal prestige.
Yeah.
But as Le Bon pointed out, crowds are not always led by those with the purest of intentions.
That's a crucial point,
Right.
Le Bon's work provides us with a framework for understanding how crowds can be manipulated and
Yes.
exploited by those seeking power or personal
Never.
gain.
Right. And this is especially important to consider in the context of the internet and social media.
Exactly. That's a great segue into the next part of our deep dive, I think.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground so far, right?
Yeah, we have.
We've explored Le Bon's insights into the psychological mechanisms of crowds, their susceptibility to influence, and the power of cultural factors and individual leadership.
Yeah.
But the question remains, right?
Right.
How have these dynamics been amplified or altered in our hyperconnect world? How does the internet, with its unprecedented reach and speed of information dissemination, how does it change the game?
That's what we'll be exploring in our next segment.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
It's like we've given Le Bon's psychological crowd a global megaphone, right? In the form of the internet.
Right. We've gone from like physical gatherings, in town squares to like these sprawling online forums and social media platforms where millions, even billions of people can be swept up in like a shared idea or emotion.
It's true.
It's both exhilarating and like a bit terrifying.
Yeah. It's certainly a profound shift.
Yeah.
Think about the concept of contagion that we discussed earlier, right? With social media algorithms that are designed to maximize engagement, a single post or tweet can go viral in a matter of hours.
Oh, wow.
Spreading an idea or emotion like wildfire across the globe.
Yeah.
It's like Le Bon's concept of contagion on steroids.
Yeah. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like that game of telephone we played as kids, right?
Yeah.
Where a message gets whispered from person to person and ends up completely distorted.
Yeah.
But like now it's happening on a massive scale.
Yeah.
And at like lightning speed.
Exactly. And the anonymity that the internet often provides and further reduce individual accountability, right?
Right.
Amplifying the tendency for crowds to swing to extremes.
Wow.
It can be a breeding ground for online mobs.
Right.
Cancel culture.
Right.
The rapid spread of misinformation and conspiracy theories.
Right.
All phenomena that Le Bon might have found both fascinating and alarming.
It's definitely like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's incredible how the internet can connect people and empower movements for social change.
Right.
Think of the Arab Spring uprisings, or the hashtag Me Too movement.
Yeah, great examples.
Those movements harnessed the power of online crowds to challenge injustice and bring about real change. So how do we navigate this like complex landscape?
That's a good question.
Knowing what we know about crowd psychology, how can we be more discerning, more resistant to manipulation, and more intentional about using our online presence for good?
That's the $1,000,000 question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about disengaging from the online world entirely, but rather about becoming more conscious of the forces at play.
Yeah.
Le Bon's insights challenge us to think critically about the information we consume online, to question the narratives that are being presented, and to be wary of those who seek to exploit our emotions for their own gain.
Right.
It's about cultivating media literacy and a healthy skepticism.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's so easy to like get swept up in the emotional current of online discussions and lose sight of like the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And this brings us back to the importance of education,
Yeah.
which Le Bon himself was so passionate about.
Right.
He believed that a well-educated populace, equipped with critical thinking skills and a strong moral compass was essential for a stable and prosperous society.
Right.
He was critical of education systems that focus solely on rote learning and abstract knowledge, arguing that they created a disconnect between the educated elite and the practical needs of society.
And he even suggested that certain forms of education could actually lead to social unrest by creating unrealistic expectations in the sense of like entitlement among those who received it.
He did.
Yeah.
He argued that education systems should align with the actual needs of society and prepare individuals for fulfilling roles within that society. Otherwise, you risk creating a class of educated but disillusioned individuals who feel alienated from their own communities.
This feels particularly relevant today.
Yeah.
Given the anxieties around automation, income inequality, and the rapidly changing nature of work,
Absolutely.
are we adequately preparing future generations for the challenges and opportunities they'll face?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
Laban's insights challenge us to think critically about the purpose of education in our own time.
Yeah.
You know, are we fostering critical thinking,
Right.
adaptability,
Right.
a sense of social responsibility,
Yeah.
or are we simply perpetuating old systems that may no longer serve us well?
It's a conversation we need to be having.
It is.
And speaking of conversations, I remember that Laban had some rather provocative views on the role of the working classes in politics.
Yes.
He was writing at a time when like universal suffrage was gaining traction.
Yeah.
And he seemed to have some reservations about the capacity of like the masses to make sound political judgments.
He did. You have to remember he was a product of his time and social class, right?
Right.
His views were shaped by the prevailing elitism of his era.
Okay.
So while it's important to acknowledge that historical context, his concerns are still relevant in a way.
Okay.
He wasn't necessarily opposed to democracy,
Okay.
but he was concerned about the potential for crowds to be swayed by demagogues and simplistic slogans, right?
Yeah.
To vote with their emotions rather than their intellect.
And we see that happening all the time, don't we?
We do all the time.
Like political campaigns often rely on emotional appeals,
Right.
fear-mongering, and oversimplification of complex issues.
Precisely. It's a timeless tactic. Le Bon simply provided a psychological framework for understanding how those tactics work.
So are we doomed to be like ruled by our feelings?
That's a good question.
Is rational discourse doomed in the face of these like powerful emotional appeals?
Not necessarily. Le Bon's insights challenge us to be more aware of how our own emotions and biases might be influencing our political views.
Okay.
They encourage us to be critical of the information we consume.
Yeah.
To be wary of those who seek to exploit our fears and desires for their own gain, and to engage in thoughtful, nuanced dialogue, even when it's difficult.
It's a reminder that critical thinking and media literacy are more important than ever.
Yes.
In our current political climate.
Absolutely. And this brings us to one final point that I think is crucial to our discussion.
Okay.
Le Bon's emphasis on the power of images, words, and formulas to influence crowds.
Right.
He was fascinated by how these elements could bypass reason and logic,
Right.
appealing directly to the emotions and instincts to the crowd.
He even suggested that a powerful image or a catchy slogan
Yes.
could be far more persuasive than a complex argument,
Right.
especially when it comes to swaying public opinion.
Totally.
It's like he was anticipating the age of advertising and propaganda.
He was, and in our modern world, right, where we're bombarded with information from all sides.
Yeah.
This insight is more important than ever.
Yeah.
Think about how much of our political discourse is driven by sound bites,
Right.
memes, and viral videos.
Yeah.
These carefully crafted messages, often designed to evoke strong emotional responses,
Right.
tap into the very dynamics that Le Bon was describing over a century ago.
It's almost like we're living in a world designed to manipulate our subconscious minds.
It can feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
But Le Bon's work isn't meant to make us feel powerless or defeated. It's a call to awareness.
Yeah.
A reminder that we have the capacity to be more than just passive consumers of information.
Right.
If we can cultivate media literacy,
Yeah.
hone our critical thinking skills,
Right.
and become more conscious of the ways in which our emotions can be manipulated.
Yeah.
We can choose to engage in thoughtful dialogue,
Yeah.
to seek out diverse perspectives,
Yeah.
and to form our own informed opinions.
So it's not about disconnecting from the world
Yeah.
or becoming cynical, but
Right.
but
Right.
about
Right.
like equipping ourselves with the tools
Yeah.
to navigate this complex landscape with greater awareness and agency.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's about recognizing that while we may be, part of a crowd,
Right?
we still retain our individual capacity for thought, discernment, and action.
And that brings us to the question of like how we can how we can harness this understanding of crowd psychology for good.
Mm.
If we know how crowds can be manipulated,
Yeah.
and can we also use that knowledge to mobilize them towards like positive change?
That's what we'll delve into in our next segment.
Okay, so we talked about how susceptible crowds can be to manipulation and all that.
Yeah.
But what about the flip side? Like, can we actually use this knowledge of crowds for good?
Yeah, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Le Bon would probably say it all comes down to leadership.
Yeah.
Remember his whole concept of personal prestige?
Yeah.
He argued that those true leaders, the ones with the real charisma and conviction, they have this unique ability to inspire and mobilize crowds towards like a common goal.
So it's not just about like holding a position of power,
Yeah.
but about having that certain something
Yeah.
that makes people want to follow you to
Mm.
believe in your vision.
Exactly. I mean, think about figures like Martin Luther King Jr. or Nelson Mandela,
Yeah.
or even Greta Thunberg.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily in positions of like formal authority, right?
Right.
But they had this moral authority, right, that
Right.
resonated with people so deeply. Like they ignited movements
Yeah.
and really changed the course of history.
They were able to like articulate a vision of a better future and inspire others to like take action.
Exactly.
But how does that actually work? Like, how do they tap into that collective energy?
Well, I think effective leaders, they understand the psychology of crowds.
Okay.
They know how to tap into those shared emotions,
Right. Yeah.
to paint a vivid picture of what's possible, and to create a sense of urgency and collective purpose. They don't manipulate or exploit.
Right, yeah.
They inspire
Mhm.
and they empower.
So it's about like channeling the crowd's energy towards a constructive goal,
Yeah.
guiding their collective power towards like positive change.
Exactly. And I think this is where Le Bon's insights can be like super valuable for anyone who's, looking to create positive change in the world.
Okay.
It's not about manipulating people for personal gain,
Right.
It's about understanding these crowd dynamics and using that knowledge to mobilize them towards a common good.
Okay.
It's about leading with authenticity,
Yeah.
integrity, and a genuine desire to make a difference.
It's about recognizing that, we all have the potential to be leaders in a way,
Right.
whether it's in our families, our
Yeah.
communities, or on a larger scale.
Absolutely.
It's about using our understanding of crowd psychology to try to build a better world.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. Le Bon's work, while, controversial at times, it provides us with a powerful framework for understanding crowds and recognizing their profound influence on our lives. It's a reminder that we're all part of various crowds, both, online and offline,
Yeah.
and that those crowds shape our beliefs, our behaviors, and ultimately our world.
It's a call to be more conscious of those influences, right? To
Yeah.
develop those critical thinking skills and to use our understanding of crowd psychology to, create positive change.
Mhm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are your takeaways?
Yeah.
What will you do differently now that you have like a better understanding of how crowds work?
Keep those questions in mind as you navigate the crowds that you encounter in your own life. And remember, even though Le Bon was writing, over a century ago, his insights are still super relevant in our hyper-connected world.
Mhm.
By understanding the dynamics of crowds,
Mhm.
we can become more conscious participants,
Right.
more discerning consumers of information, and more effective agents for positive change.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the fascinating world of ideas.